All right, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Long-awaited break. Sorry, but yeah, it's been a while since the show. Well, like 9 days or something. Sorry about that, guys. But we're back better than ever. I'm Price Manser, your host, your hostess with the mostest, here to make the most out of your day. Uh, Episode 7 of the podcast. A lot has happened since the last time. I mean, it's been 9 days, so of course a lot has happened, but it's been an extremely crazy week in college football, NFL, all that good stuff. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about that. But yeah, we're just gonna go over a few things this week. Gonna go over last week's college football playoff games. Go over some of the bowl games, some of my picks for the upcoming bowl games. The rest of my picks for the next round two of the CFP, and then of course transfer portal update and real spiel. Also, we will be going over my picks for instance, like NFL MVP, just the NFL awards, so Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player, Defensive Player, and obviously real spiel, which is our question and answer session. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, make sure everything is right here. All right, let's go. So, first game we're going to talk about is Clemson versus Texas. So, I was honestly expecting this game to be a lot closer. So, 38-24 there you see the final score. It's the box score we're looking at there. But, just a very good played game by Texas, and Clemson honestly looked pretty good, but there's just a couple things they could work on for sure. And the main reason, in my opinion, why they lost this game is that the front seven for Clemson that I've hyped up for so long has not showed up, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, front seven for Clemson did not deliver. I mean, we can go look at it right now. As you can see, Jaden Blue had 14 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Travion Wisner had 15 carries for 110 yards and 2 TDs as well. So obviously there wasn't a lot of stopping the run going on, which is what I kind of expected from Clemson. So, I mean, if they wanted to win this game, that's what they should have done, But yeah, so Blue and Wisner both over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns apiece. I mean, you're not going to beat Texas if you let those guys run all over you, which is kind of not what I expected. And the run game for Clemson as well was pretty abysmal, as you can see. Their leading rusher was Randall over there. I forget his first name. Hold on. Yeah, Adam Randall. Yeah, 4 carries for 44 yards. Not terrific on the ground. Maffa didn't get it going. He only had like 2 carries this game. And that could be because Clemson was playing down for, I think, all of the game. But still, I mean, there's just the offense was not dynamic. Klubnik did play well. Don't get me wrong. Klubnik looked great. But it's just, they just had it was a one-dimensional offense, and that made it pretty easy for Texas to cover. So obviously Texas wins by 2 touchdowns there. Just goal line inefficiency as well on Clemson's part, getting down to the goal, or getting down in the red zone on the goal line, and just getting stopped repeatedly, or not really repeatedly, but from what I saw, it was just, they didn't really get it going. And yeah, one thing I will say for Clemson though is Sammy Brown, the linebacker, freshman linebacker, looks great. I mean, the kid looks elite. I think he had 11 tackles in this game, was the leading tackler for Clemson. Let's see, yeah, 10 tackles, 6 solo, 1 tackle for loss, leading tackler for Clemson on defense this week. That kid's gonna be great. But yeah, that was Texas, Clemson. I wish it was a bit closer, but it's the first round of the college football playoffs. We'll talk about that more later on, but yeah, that's Texas Clemson. Next up, we're going to talk about is Penn State and SMU. So once again, a pretty lackluster game. This one was worse than the other one, but really all it comes down to for Penn State here is that Kevin Jennings kind of lost them this game. So Three picks obviously is not going to cut it, and two of them being pick sixes. I mean, come on. SMU's defense was doing great. I mean, you look at the box score here, and you see 21 in the second quarter, but one of those was a defensive touchdown, and one of them in the first was also a defensive touchdown for Penn State. But Penn State offense isn't giving the SMU offense is not giving SMU's defense doing them any favors really. I mean, you see obviously the stats even and if you watch this game, it's not like the Penn State offense was dominant. SMU was getting possessions on offense, especially in the first half, but obviously there would be a turnover or they'd have to be forced to punt, and they just couldn't get it going on offense, which really sucks because, like I said last week's episode, I said, listen, I think SMU is going to win this game because SMU can play great defense against the tight end and stopping the run, which for the most part they did. Like if you look at it, even in the box score, like I'm not gonna like be a stat merchant or anything, but I mean you see it obviously like 189 rushing yards is a lot, but you got to think about how SMU's defense was forced to play so much in this game when they really shouldn't have. But I mean, look at it here. Tyler Warren was honestly, in terms of his production this season, was very limited. And I think SMU did a great job game planning against him and really, making sure he was out of the equation, And he only accounted for like 6 or 40 total yards of offense. But, three picks isn't going to cut it. SMU's defense was doing great until, that rough stretch in the second quarter where they scored a lot, but two of them are defensive touchdowns. And, the Penn State running backs were kind of dominant here. I mean, obviously, you see Drew Aller here. He didn't really do much this game. 127 yards, like 50% completion percentage. But Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen dominated on the ground. 14 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown for Singleton. And Katron Allen had 11 carries, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So really, this just kind of, to me, the big takeaway for this Penn State team and, for any other team in the college football playoff who's getting ready, like a Boise State who's getting ready to play Penn State, this game was kind of, really lackluster here. Or their offense was lackluster, but their defense was elite in this game. Forcing 3 picks to Kevin Jennings. You're going to win a football game doing that, but, SMU did a great job playing defense. I think if, the offensive inefficiencies weren't there, this game would be a lot closer, but obviously Penn State gets the win here. So next up, we are going to be talking about Ohio State and Tennessee. So this game, honestly, I was kind of expecting this, but I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought this game was going to be closer, but I did get it right in terms of who I picked to win this football game. So last week I said Ohio State's going to get it going. As you can see, they did get it going pretty well. But, it was just Tennessee's offense is just abysmal. And even with Dylan Sampson gone, it still looked it looks so rough. But is that to blame on Dylan Sampson? Not completely, in my opinion. As you can see, Lewis here, Peyton Lewis, the backup running back, came in and played really well. I mean, he averaged 7 yards a carry, 77 yards on the ground, but the offense still didn't do anything. Nico struggled, which is kind of like a trend we've been seeing in all these games that he's played in, is that he's really struggled. And that's kind of one of the big talking points I want to talk about for this game. It's just Nico does not look comfortable throwing the ball at all. I mean, like in the blowout games, like against UTEP or Kent State or whatever, he looks great. I mean, he's hitting the deep ball and, he has time to throw and he's making the right reads. But then he plays Georgia or Ohio State or an Arkansas even or an Alabama, and he just does not, look the same. I don't know if it's like, he just doesn't look comfortable. Maybe he doesn't trust the receivers. enough, which I can't blame him, because not a lot of his receivers are truly that talented compared to like an Ohio State with a Jeremiah Smith or a Mecca Buka. But I mean, you could clearly see in his game that he makes, like, in the big games, he makes the wrong read sometimes. He overthrows the receiver, or he just takes off when he really doesn't need to. So maybe he doesn't trust the receiver. But yeah, I mean, it's just something to definitely read into. And obviously, Nico is only a redshirt freshman, so he's got plenty of time to get better. So that's great for him. But it's just, something's got to change next year for sure for Tennessee if they want to keep making a run like this, So maybe it's just a confidence thing, and maybe he needs to be more comfortable with the receivers. Maybe he needs to feel more comfortable in the pocket. But it's definitely going to be something to look for next year. So hopefully he can get it going. But back to the game. So Will Howard played amazing, like lights out. Obviously he had the one pick, but 24-29, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, looked great. The go ball to Jeremiah Smith was absolutely beautiful. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but I mean, it was great. I mean, he looked electric. And the Ohio State O-line really stepped up. I mean, obviously this is an O-line that's been pretty hammered by injuries this season. And then you see him come out, and the O-line looks great against a really good Tennessee front four, for sure. With James Pierce Jr. and the defensive lineman. Hold on. I can get up here. Or I can't. But the defensive tackle, I forget his name, but looked great. Those guys have been playing great all season, but the Ohio State O-line looked great. They're holding their blocks, obviously getting the run game going. Travion Henderson, 10 carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Quinshon Judkins also had 2 touchdowns on the ground. And really Tennessee's defense cannot stop the receivers, cannot stop the run. It was just, it was pretty rough. And Ohio State's offense looked really dynamic. And to be honest, this is probably one of the best coached games by Ryan Day we've seen this season, and maybe in the past couple seasons as well. And everything was kind of clicking for them. But that was Tennessee and Ohio State. So Ohio State does as predicted, and it was a pretty good game to watch. Next up, we are going to be talking about the next round of the college football playoff. So, as you can see... Oh, I'm forgetting a game. Man, guys, I'm so sorry. Let me get a quick takeaway here. Actually, let's see. There it is. So, can't believe I almost forgot that. So, obviously, we have here Notre Dame and Indiana. And, this is kind of what everybody expected. This is what I expected. Indiana was not able to get Curtis Ward going fast enough. So, when I say that, it's like in the fourth quarter, you could see in the box score, obviously that's when Indiana scored the majority of their points. Makes the blowout look a lot less blowout-ish. But in that final quarter, they finally really got Curtis Ward going with the ball. He looked good. He was making the right reads. He was completing the passes, and he got the 2 touchdowns in really quick succession. But, if we could have had that in the second quarter, maybe this could be a whole different ball game. Which is kind of one of the main talking points I had last week about this game. I said, listen, if Indiana wants to win this game, they got to get Curtis Ward going. Obviously, they didn't. They did get him going, but just too little, too late. Obviously, we can see that by who won the football game. But, Notre Dame also looked really good. I mean, just dominated on the ground, really. As you can see, we have Jeremiah Love with 108 yards. And he got 91 of those on one carry. 98. So, did they really dominate on the ground? Not really. But Riley Leonard got it done enough through the air for them to make up for their lack of running game in a way. But, as you can see, that kind of long touchdown kind of really honestly sealed the deal for Notre Dame. It happened in like the first quarter, and then it just kind of went all downhill from there. So, really played a great all-around game of football. Offensively, I don't think, Notre Dame looks that great. And it'll be interesting to see what they can do against Georgia next week. But, it kind of sucks for Indiana because I honestly think this is a very winnable game for Indiana. But I guess we'll see. how Notre Dame does next week. So, sorry about that. I almost forgot about that game, but we got it covered there. Anyways, um, Texas and Arizona State. So this is a round two game here, and I so this might be crazy, but it's an awful take for a reason. But I think Arizona State is going to win this football game. Really, if you look at it on paper, obviously Texas has the way better team, but I mean, to me, you got to think about Arizona State and their offense, and obviously they're going to be without Jordan Tyson, their wide receiver one. But you got Cam Scadaboo, you got Sam Levitt, and Sam Levitt, who's only a freshman, has looked great. He's able to tuck it and run. He makes the right reads, and he's really good in the play action. And obviously, when you have a QB who's good with the play action, you have a great running back. That kind of creates a problem on defense. And all the teams that Arizona State has played since week 4 and on, all the conference games, they've looked great. And nobody's been able to stop that kind of play action. They can run the ball. Sam Levitt can run the ball. But and we saw that against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship, where it was Sam Levitt pulling running the RPO, pulling it when he needs to, throwing it over the top to the wide open wide receiver, and getting it done. And that's how we got these blowouts against Iowa State. But it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Arizona State hasn't played a team of Texas's caliber this season, and honestly, I think that Scadaboo and Levitt can really get it going here. I mean, you look at it. Obviously, Texas has played really good against the run this season, but they've also haven't played a running back of Cam Scadaboo's power, I guess, like in terms, Scadaboo is the number 2 running back in the nation, in my opinion, and they haven't played a running back that good. I mean, you look back and think about who they've played, and who they've gone against a running back, and the best one that comes to my mind is like Donovan Edwards, which in hindsight now is not that great of a running back, but I mean, Trevor Etienne, maybe Nate Frazier, but Scadaboo is a great running back. So it's going to be interesting to see how Texas is going to contain him. And I think this Arizona State team could really surprise some people. In my opinion, they are the hottest team in football, right in front of South Carolina. But no one has been able to stop Scadaboo, and I don't think that changes in this game. Obviously there's going to be no Jordan Tyson, which sucks for them in the air. But guys like Xavier Guillory, have stepped up big in this game, or especially in the Big 12 championship when Jordan Tyson couldn't play. I mean, the backups look great, and they got it going for Arizona State, and have been enough. And I think for Arizona State, it's all about being enough. And it's just going to be interesting to see how dynamic, really, this Arizona State offense can be against Texas. I mean, Texas does have a great defense. They're good against the run. They're good against the pass. So, I mean, in my opinion, if Arizona State wants to win this game, Sam Levitt will probably need to play his lights out. Obviously, Cam Scadaboo is going to be Cam Scadaboo. He's going to be good. He's going to get a ton of carries, and he's going to get a ton of yards and score some touchdowns. But all that's not going to matter if Sam Levitt cannot play a good football game. If Sam Levitt needs to, make sure that Texas is ready for the pass, and make sure that he can get it over the top, or he can hit him on the RPO or the play action, so that they're not only relying on Cam Scadaboo, because I feel like if you only rely on Cam Scadaboo in this game, you're going to lose this football game. I mean, that's what Texas is game planning for. They're game planning for Cam Scadaboo, and obviously Sam Levitt will need to play his lights out, or play lights out. But that's asking a lot from a true freshman. But I think he can do it, honestly. And for me, obviously, the key for Arizona State's defense is to stop the run and make Quinn Ewers uncomfortable in the pocket. We saw it when, both games against Georgia for Texas. I mean, Quinn Ewers looked really uncomfortable in the pocket. They stopped the run, and they couldn't get anything going on offense. So that's kind of how I feel about this game. Texas really just needs to stop Scadaboo. and make sure that Levitt, kind of the same, just kind of make sure he's uncomfortable in the pocket, makes bad reads, does freshman things. So, and force Levitt to kind of make those mistakes. But I think, honestly, that Arizona State kind of has a real chance of winning this game that people don't really see. So I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. All right, and we're going to keep her going. So, next game we're going to talk about is Ohio State and Oregon. So, obviously, rematch, round two between Ohio State and Oregon here. And, obviously, Ohio State, I think, is favored in this game, yeah, by 1 point. But, that's just because I think of how fiery of a start the Buckeyes got to last week against Tennessee. And is that play for them really sustainable? Excuse me. Maybe. It just kind of it's really the last time we saw them play this dynamic against a good team, in my opinion, was the Indiana game. And Penn State, they looked pretty good, but only scored 20 points. And then the last time they played Oregon, obviously, that game was super close, came down to the wire. So I think the last time, from what we can see, Ohio State has really stepped up in the big games. So will they step up here, round two, and maybe actually come out with the win? Me personally, I don't think so. I think Oregon can really get it done twice. And the thing about it is, to me, is that Oregon is not Tennessee or Indiana. I mean, obviously, Indiana, Tennessee, they're about here in terms of teams in the college football playoff. And then Oregon is kind of up here. And, that's the way I see it, is just Oregon is miles above those bottom four seeds, in my opinion. And is the defense going to have this? The Ohio State defense going to have the same success it did against Tennessee? I don't think so. Obviously, you have Dillon Gabriel compared to Nico here, and Dillon Gabriel is a really good quarterback, and he's done it all season. He's looked good. As you can see, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 3,500 yards. And he's got the receivers to do it too, between Tej Johnson and Evan Stewart. Both of those, big 1-2 punch for Oregon. But I think in terms of how this game will go, I think it's going to be very close, just like last time. Probably come down to a game-winning kick or a game-winning drive of some sort. And, it's just Oregon's offense. I talked about it when they played Penn State in the Big Ten Championship, is this Oregon's offense is just so good in terms of where it can attack you from. Obviously, you have Tej Johnson, who can hit you deep. You have Evan Stewart, who can get you over the middle in the slot. The tight ends are really good at Oregon, and then the running game with James. I mean, what are you gonna? How are you gonna? There's obviously going to be a weak point in the defense at some point. And so I think that, Ohio State, Oregon, I think Oregon gets it done for the second game in a row. So that's just kind of how I feel about this one. And the next game we're going to talk about is Notre Dame and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So obviously, Georgia is not favored in this game. And for that reason, obviously, is because Carson Beck is out. So you have a quarterback who's never started a game in college before, coming in and starting in the second round of the CFP. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton came in against Texas and looked pretty good, got the win, and really, I think what it comes down to for me is that Texas did not game plan for Gunnar Stockton being in the game. Obviously they game planned for Carson Beck coming in, throwing the ball, getting the ground game going, and they didn't kind of get that dynamic running game that you get with Gunnar Stockton. So Gunnar Stockton, if you don't know, I think he was a number one dual threat quarterback coming from his class, and from Rabun County. Shout out. And so obviously you don't see that in the Texas game, where you don't see the running game. or you don't see, sorry, you don't see that running game with Carson Beck. You don't game plan for that. But obviously, you got a guy like Gunnar Stockton who can run, and on the runs, he was getting like 5 to 10 yards each time. And you know, against Texas as well, is UGA's run defense looked great against both times against Texas, and in the big games, especially the run defense has shown up for Georgia. I mean, even against Alabama, the run game was not great, and even Ole Miss, which Ole Miss doesn't have a great run game to begin with, but Georgia's run defense has stepped up in the big games, and if Georgia's run defense is going to step up in the big games, this is the big game to do it too. So obviously Notre Dame is a very run heavy team, run first between Jeremiah Love. I keep forgetting his name, but the backup running back Price, Riley Leonard, all three of those guys can run the football very well. Indiana was able to hem them in, except for that one big run from Jeremiah Love. So I think if the Georgia defense can really step up against the run, force Riley Leonard in uncomfortable situations, passing the ball is still a very winnable football game for Georgia. And, if Georgia can stop the run, in my opinion, they win the football game. And I think that even with, weeks to game plan, or at least a week, I think, like, for Notre Dame to game plan, I think that Gunnar Stockton will still look good. He's been in the system for a while, obviously. I think 2 years now, 2 or 3 years. And I think Kirby knows he's got to build the offense for Gunnar. And for that, what that means to me is that, throwing it to the tight end, dumping it off to the running back in the flat, doing little things like that, and that can win you the football game. And in my opinion, the defense is going to be the real heavy hitter. The defense is going to be the decider on who wins this game. So if the defense steps up and Gunnar Stockton plays average, they can win the football game here, in my opinion. Quick little water break there. See if chat's saying anything. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this game here. And obviously we have one more game. Also forgot to open it up. Let me pull it up real quick. Where are you? Where is Boise State, Penn State? There it is. Sorry. So, we got Boise State, Penn State. In my bracket, I chose Boise State to win this football game because I think Boise State can win this football game, honestly. I mean, without the big, turnover issues that SMU had last week, SMU could have easily won that football game. And to me, what it comes down to is, you got Ashton Jeanty. Who is going to stop Ashton Jeanty? Is Penn State going to stop Ashton Jeanty? In my opinion, I don't think so. Obviously, Brashard Smith for SMU is a great running back, but he's not Ashton Jeanty. And, it's one of those things where, has Penn State ever played a running back this good? Not really. And in the games where they have played good running backs, like Minnesota, like Ohio State, they've almost lost. So like Ohio State, they lost, and then the Minnesota game, it's a 1-point game with a great running back, and I forget his name. I think it's hold on, I can get it for you guys. Darius Taylor, the running back from Minnesota, he's really good, but. You see these great running backs, and they've always kind of done good against Penn State this season. I don't think that changes here, obviously. Ashton Jeanty has had plenty of time to get ready for this game with the bye and all. They've had weeks to prepare, and I honestly think Boise State could win this football game against Penn State. Excuse me. Obviously, Penn State is an 11-point favorite, but really, I don't see a world where Ashton Jeanty gets stopped in this football game. And Madsen, the quarterback, Maddox Madsen for Boise State, can get it done. And obviously he's a really efficient passer. You see that in his touchdown to interception ratio. And yeah, they're playing in Mountain West opponents. But even in big games like against Oregon, this team has looked really good, and obviously this will be their probably their second major test. Couldn't get the win against Oregon, but I think they could really get it done against this team. Or Penn State is a good team, and the defense looked elite last week, but that was only because they were able to force turnovers by Kevin Jennings. And Madsen is a quarterback who does not, does not turn the ball over a lot, and Ashton Jeanty doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So if you kind of can take away those turnovers from happening, stop those turnovers from happening, I think Boise State really has a real shot to win this football game. And for me personally, I think that it all comes down to how Boise State's defense plays against Penn State, and Boise State's defense has been really good in these football games, and they kind of force teams to pass. They're pretty good against the run, so I'm very curious to see how a dynamic duo like Singleton and Katron Allen do against a pretty good, an underrated Boise State run defense. Obviously, I want to see what Drew Hauer can do through the air. Drew Hauer, he's not really renowned for throwing the ball very well. So I don't think that, if Penn State has to come down to relying on Drew Hauer throwing the football, it could be an issue. And obviously that's pretty dependent on Tyler Warren, the tight end for Penn State. But honestly, I like the game plan for Boise on forcing Drew Hauer to pass and getting them, if you force Drew Hauer to pass, it's a very winnable football game, in my opinion. So that's just kind of how I feel about round 2 of the CFP. So if we're going to go through it, so my picks are, we're going to go with Boise State, Arizona State, Georgia, and Oregon. Kind of a little spicy. Got to do something different, right? But I think, honestly, for Boise State and Arizona State, as underdogs, they have a real shot to win the football game. So that's what I'm going to rock with. That's my awful takes there. And next, we're going to talk about some bowl game matchups. So obviously, we are, let's see, where are we? We are right here. So hold on 1 minute. All right, so all-time bowl records right now, we only picked 2 games wrong. So at least in bowls. So we're not going to count playoffs as bowls. So we got, the only 2 games we got wrong are Georgia Southern and South Florida. I picked San Jose State to win that one. I picked Georgia Southern to win theirs. But NIU, UTSA, Florida, Ohio, James Madison, UNLV, Memphis, and South Alabama. I picked all those teams to win. So we're only at two strikes on Bowl Mania so far. So my next couple bowl games we're going to look at here is obviously we're going to pick these Friday matchups. I already picked these Thursday night games. They're one of them is about to come to a conclusion. I saw it was tied 37-37 earlier, but we picked Pitt, Kansas State, and Bowling Green to win those games, just to remind you guys. But next, we're going to have Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl. Navy is doing a lot better than people expected and what you expect out of a service academy team. But I'm still going to rock with Oklahoma to win. Even without the quarterback, I think an Oklahoma team, even if they're mid, is going to be way better than a Navy team that's good. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. Next, Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt in the Birmingham Bowl. That's going to be a spectacular game, I think. I got Vandy winning it. Obviously, the line is Georgia Tech -3, but I think Vanderbilt can win it. I'm pretty sure that Diego Pavia is going to play in it, and obviously Georgia Tech has lost their 2 top receivers in the transfer portal, and still they do have Jamal Haynes and Haynes King, but I think Vanderbilt can play great defense and win that football game. Next, we got Texas Tech at Arkansas. Don't need to say at, but in the Liberty Bowl. I went with Arkansas here. Obviously, I think Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, Taylor Green, he's going to play. Texas Tech did look good this season, in my opinion, but had some guys enter the portal, are waiting on guys to join their team from the portal. So I think that with all that uncertainty, Arkansas is going to win. Next, the Holiday Bowl, Syracuse, Washington State. So I'm kind of upset about this game because I thought this game was going to be a great shootout with John Mateer and Kyle McCord going, touchdown for touchdown, pass for pass. But obviously, that is not going to happen anymore. We'll talk about it later on. A lot of Washington State's team has transferred to different schools, and Syracuse obviously has remained pretty constant. I think Syracuse wins that football game. Next up, we got A&M and USC. I'm going A&M here. Marcel Reed should be playing in this game. And even with taking some hits in the portal, I think Texas A&M can still get it done because USC is an absolute disaster right now. If you haven't seen, Lincoln Riley and the boys down there are kind of, it's been burning down. Let's just say that. It's not good over there. Next up, we got UConn and UNC. I'm going to go UNC. Belichick's not coaching in this game, but still, it's a pretty mid UConn team, and I think UNC can get the win there pretty easily. Pinstripe Bowl, Nebraska, Boston College. Give me Nebraska. Obviously, Boston College, they benched Tommy C. I forget who the backup is, but it's kind of irrelevant. You got Dylan Raiola. I think Nebraska still gets it done, even with losing their running back in the portal and whatnot. TCU, Louisiana. Give me TCU. TCU has a very underrated team, in my opinion, this year with Hoover at quarterback. I think Hoover's a great quarterback. So I think Hoover will look good in this game, and they'll get the job done pretty easily against Louisiana. Poor Louisiana. Next, got the Pop-Tart Bowl. This is going to also be a great game. Cam Ward is playing. Rocco Beck should be playing in this game. I think this game is going to be one of the better ones in terms of bowl matchups, but I like Miami to win this one. Cam Ward and the boys get it done. Speaking of Miami of Ohio, I think gets it done in the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. That's crazy. Snoop Dogg has a bowl nowadays. But against Colorado State, they have a pretty decent team. I'm decently high on Braden Fowler Nicolosi, the quarterback for Colorado State. But I think Miami of Ohio gets it done. They have a really good team down there in the MAC. If you guys don't watch MAC football. Next up, we got East Carolina, NC State. NC State with Bailey at quarterback has been really good. Maybe not really good, but have been better than what they were with Grayson McCall at quarterback. So give me NC State to win that one pretty easily. Next up, BYU, Colorado. Give me Colorado. As much as I love the BYU story and everything that's gone on at BYU, leading up to the last two games of the season, obviously they sold their way out of the CFP, out of the Big 12 championship. So it's just like battling for third place in the Big 10 or in the Big 12. Sorry, but I got Colorado. Shitter and Travis Hunter are both playing in this game. If you guys don't know, Travis Hunter is going to be coming for vengeance. His girlfriend is an awful human being apparently, and Colorado. I think Travis Hunter maybe will have his game of the year. Who knows? Louisiana Tech and Army. Give me Army. Army's looked pretty dominant as a service academy. Beat up on Tulane in the American Championship, and has only lost to Notre Dame, which is a great team, obviously. So give me Army to beat 5-7 Louisiana Tech in the Independence Bowl. Come on, Army in the Independence Bowl. Get it done for me. Excuse me. Next up, we're gonna have Iowa and Mizzou. So I'm going to take Mizzou in this game. Mizzou, obviously, way better than Iowa. No offense to Iowa, but I think Mizzou is going to get it done. Alabama, Michigan. Give me Alabama to win this game. Alabama is angry, and I think they're going to channel it on poor Michigan here. So that's what I think about that. Louisville, Washington. Give me Louisville. I really like Louisville as a team. They have a great freshman running back, and I think his name is Isaac Brown. But yeah, they look really good. Obviously, they have a quarterback who can get it done. And golly, what's his name? Tyler Show. And I think Louisville can get it done there pretty easily. South Carolina, Illinois. Now, this is also going to be one of the better games of the afternoon. Illinois, or of the Bowl Mania, but Illinois is one of the better teams in the Big Ten, in my opinion. I think they're a really underrated team. And I think this will actually be a pretty good game, but I think South Carolina is going to get it done. I don't think Illinois will be able to stop Lenore Sellers or Raheem Sanders, so give me South Carolina to win that one. Next, Baylor, LSU. Give me I think I went with LSU. Yeah, I'm going with LSU here. Going with Garrett Nussmeier and the boys. I think they'll get it done. Especially, Nussmeier should be playing in this game, but it's a pretty rough looking Baylor team who doesn't know who they're going to start at quarterback. And Robertson has looked decent. Sawyer Robertson, the quarterback for Baylor, but I think LSU gets it done pretty easily. And the last game, which I may go to, we'll see, is Duke Ole Miss in the Gator Bowl. Give me Ole Miss. Duke is going to be playing a third stringer at quarterback. Jackson Dart's playing in this game, so it's a pretty easy one for me. Give me Ole Miss. So, next we're going to do a little portal update. I'm going to take a sip of water. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to answer them. Think we're going to keep it rolling. So, our portal update. So, obviously, last week we found out John Mateer entered the portal. We knew where he was going. It was pretty obvious. Washington State's offensive coordinator, I forget his name, took a job at Oklahoma to be the new offensive coordinator there. So Mateer goes to Oklahoma. That's his job. He's going to win it. And I think he'll do great at Oklahoma. So big fan of that move there from Mateer. Mateer's a great quarterback. Obviously came out this year and has looked stellar in Cam Ward's replacement. And we're going to keep going. Let's see. Mendoza to Indiana. This is one we called previously on the show. I forget. I don't think it was last week, but maybe 2 weeks ago. We called this one for Fernando Mendoza, who is a great quarterback. Really good at Cal. Kind of underrated. Goes to Indiana. I said he was a Kurt Signetti kind of guy. Kind of same build as that Curtis Rourke. And can really sling the ball and he needs to. He's got size. Excuse me. So I think this is a good move here. Goes to Indiana. I like it. Malik Murphy, out of left field, goes to Oregon State. I don't really necessarily agree with it. Obviously, his name was thrown around in places like Kentucky and stuff like that. But in terms of competition, I like it for Malik Murphy. I think he will probably dominate on who Oregon State would be playing, which is Mountain West schools. And if he went to a place like Kentucky, he'd have no one to throw it to, and he'd look pretty sorry. So I like the move in terms of he's going to look good at Oregon State. And Oregon State has been good at, putting quarterbacks in good situations. But, is he going to win anything from it? Maybe a bowl game, It's not going to be any crazy move. Obviously, Wiegman and Moss, we've talked about before. I love both of those moves. Mensa also love that move. Talked about Arnold last week. Still don't know where Walker White's going. But next we're going to talk about is Aaron Nolan. So this is a kind of a move that made no sense to me, in my opinion. So obviously, Lenore Sellers, freshman quarterback, comes out and especially towards the end of the season looks great. Mid to late season, he's been lights out. And then Aaron Nolan, Langston Hughes guy, goes to Ohio State, rode the bench. Obviously Ohio State's quarterback room is pretty loaded, and then goes down to South Carolina, which to ride the bench behind Lenore Sellers. Doesn't make sense to me here. I mean, maybe he'll start in like 2 years, but to me, I think this is just a move where he's going to, we'll be talking about him this time next year for being in the portal, kind of deal. Don't agree with it. You're going to go ride the bench. You should go to a much lower team. Maybe not much lower, but a team where maybe you can see some playing time, which I don't think you can see playing time at South Carolina. Maybe in a blowout, but that's about it. Cannon Salter, we've already talked about. Bo Pribula, the backup quarterback at Penn State, kind of became a big deal because he felt like couldn't find a good landing spot if he waited to stay on his team. But is headed to Mizzou. I think this is a pretty good replacement for Brady Cook, but honestly, I could see him being a Drew Aller 2.0 kind of deal, which is carried by his running backs. And we'll talk about the running backs for Mizzou a little later on, and maybe that won't be the worst thing for him because I think Mizzou in the next couple seasons is going to be pretty reliant on their running backs. So we'll keep that going. MVP, we talked about that move. Love it. Justin Martin's kind of really an unimportant move to Maryland might start. We'll see. I think there's going to be a QB battle there. We've already talked about Dampier, Castellanos. Next up, we're going to talk about Malachi Singleton. So I honestly really like this move for Singleton. Obviously, you stay at the Power 4 level, and Singleton, when he came in for Arkansas, looked pretty decent when Taylor Green would get hurt and whatnot. And you go to a Purdue team with not a lot of expectations. You have a new head coach, Barry Odom, who looked good with Haj Malik Williams, whatever, for UNLV. I think Singleton could play that same role for Barry Odom. I think this is Barry Odom's quarterback next year. So I really like the move. You're going to have no expectations. You can just do what you can, play your heart out. And, you're probably going to lose a lot of games, but you might look good doing it. So I like the move for Singleton. I think he'll play really well here. And, it's just, it's a great move for him. We got Ricky Collins going to Syracuse. Kind of an underrated move also as well. Ricky Collins is sat there and rode the bench at at LSU for a little bit. Now he gets to go to Syracuse, get to fight for the starting job over there, which he should get. I think McCord, obviously, I think he's done after this year, but I like the move. Fran Brown gets another guy that he likes, so no complaints there. Lonergan goes to Boston College. I think that's a Bill O'Brien connection there. Probably will start for Boston College. We'll see how he does. I think I talked about that last week. Colin Drea goes to UNLV. I like this move for Colin Drea. You can go to a UNLV team who right now where a lot of guys are hitting the portal, but has been a pretty consistent Group of 5 team. I think he can show out at the Group of 5 level. I think he's only a freshman as well. Quarterback at Virginia last year looked decent, so I think he can really show out at UNLV. I kind of really like that move. Keep going. Ashton Daniels going to ride the bench. We talked about that. Devin Brown, kind of an unimportant move. I could just see him going to like a Group of 5 kind of school. Really, probably an upper tier Group of 5, low tier Power 4 school, but most likely a Group of 5 team. Next, we got Malachi Nelson. Former number 1 QB in the nation, commits to USC, doesn't see the field, leaves, goes to Boise State, can't win against Maddox Madsen for the starting job in the preseason this year, and then enters the portal again and is now a three-star guy, according to 24/7. But talk about a fall off. I mean, he obviously entered the portal and hoping to get some offers, but I think he's been. I think I read that he just took a visit to UTEP, so crazy fall off. Needs to be studied there on Malachi Nelson. Number 1 QB in his class to taking visits at UTEP. So we'll see where he lands. That's not going to be the worst move for him, though. Maybe he blows out. We'll see. But you need to see something from him. Braylon Braxton goes to Southern Miss, follows Charles Huff, his former head coach at Marshall. And you're going to see that with the whole Marshall football team, which have a lot of underrated players. But Braylon Braxton, underrated quarterback, really good for Marshall this season. Can run it, can pass it. So, obviously, he's going to follow his former head coach to Southern Miss. I like the move. It's going to be so funny if Southern Miss wins the Sun Belt next year with Marshall's team. Take a little bit of water break real quick. Next, we got Preston Stone. So, lost the starting job at SMU after playing abysmally against Nevada and BYU, I believe, and is now going to Northwestern. Like taking the Northwestern route there. Not very good Power 4 team where you'll have not very high expectations. So, and maybe he'll look good. I'm kind of concerned on who he's going to throw to at Northwestern because I don't think there's going to be a lot of people there for him to throw to. So it's going to be interesting to see if he stays there. I could see him staying there past next year, but we'll just have to see how that goes. Deshaun Purdy commits to Florida, and Deshaun Purdy looked good for Charlotte this year. He's a true freshman, but you're gonna sit behind sorry, DJ Lagway. You're gonna sit behind Lagway for 2 years probably, and I get it maybe from a development standpoint, but I'd like to see him get more playing time at a really good group of 5 school rather than ride the bench at Florida. So that's that move. Let's see if I have anything else. Brendan Lewis, not a bad quarterback at all. Nevada last season, one of the better quarterbacks in the Mountain West Conference. Is going to, I think, do really good at Memphis. Memphis is, obviously they're coming off Seth Hennigan, but I think he'll look good. I think he'll play good over there. There's one more quarterback I want to talk about. Obviously, Daquan Finn's in the portal. Pretty rough there. Taven Jackson. I like Taven Jackson going to a low tier, a high tier group of 5 school. When Curtis Rourke was hurt for Indiana, Taven Jackson came in and did just fine. So I like Taven Jackson going to a decent school. But here's the name I want to talk about: Mikey Keene, 2-year starter at Fresno State. Put up really great stats for them. Looked good. Is a very good quarterback. Obviously, Fresno State, they run that kind of air raid kind of offense. And I think he will be the starter for Michigan next year. Obviously, I think there's going to be some sort of competition between him and Bryce Underwood. But Mikey Keene is a guy who's been in college football for multiple years now. And I think he's kind of going to be the bridge guy. Obviously, Michigan had no quarterback last year between Orji or Warren or whoever they had. But I think Mikey Keene's going to be the bridge guy. He'll look good for Michigan, in my opinion. But I think it's kind of just a bridge move to get, let Bryce Underwood get a year under his belt, see what it's like in college football, learn the offense for Michigan, and then obviously take that into next season or the year after next season. So I like this move. I like Mikey Keene to Michigan. It really makes sense to me. It's a great job. And speaking of Michigan, we're going to move on to running backs now. Justice Haynes. It says 100%, but he is going to Michigan. It's already come out. So Justice Haynes goes to Michigan. It was between them and Ohio State. So another SEC running back goes up to the Big Ten. We'll see how it goes. I like Haynes. More of a power runner, which is what Michigan is used to, but I think it'll be a pretty nice 1-2 punch with him and Mullings. Wayshawn Parker goes to Utah. I love this move for Utah. Obviously, Utah, their offensive coordinator, their head coach is the former New Mexico head coach. You bring up Devin Dampier, who is a great quarterback, great dual threat guy, kind of like a mini Lamar Jackson in my opinion. And then you pair him with one of the best running backs in the transfer portal, true freshman Wayshawn Parker. So I really like the move for Wayshawn Parker. I think it makes a lot of sense. You're going to have I think you can have the potential for 2,000-yard rushers for Utah between Wayshawn Parker and Devin Dampier. So I really like that move for Utah. We'll see how they do in the Big 12 next year, but I really like what they're putting together up there. Fluff Bothwell goes from South Alabama to Mississippi State. This is probably my number one running back in the portal. Fluff Bothwell, he's really good. True freshman from South Alabama, was dominating teams, and takes that, goes to Mississippi State, teams up with Luke Cromenhook. Obviously, I like the direction for Mississippi State. Mississippi State, they keep the team young. You have a sophomore, 2 sophomores coming in at skill positions with Cromenhook at Mississippi, or coming in at quarterback, and then Bothwell coming in at running back. I think, give it a year or two, this could be a really good backfield we're seeing. So I like what Levy's doing down there. Obviously, Levy is when he was first hired, it was kind of questionable, but I think it's going to end up working out. Give him a year or two, and I think they will be a lot better. Next, we got Ahmad Hardy goes to Missouri from ULM. Also, a really great running back in the Sun Belt this year. Looked great at ULM. Was the only sort of offense they had. Sorry, General Booty, but takes that and goes to Missouri. I really think that this is a good move, and we've seen it from Missouri the past 3 years between Cody Schrader and Nate Noel from App State. They're relying on the transfer portal for their running backs, and they've always had a knack for picking the right guy. Cody Schrader was the right guy. Nate Noel was the right guy for him. I think Ahmad Hardy is going to be the right guy for him. I think they keep that going, and I think that's a good move for them. Quentin Joyner, also a really good running back for USC, sat under Woody Marks, and that kind of not a lot of people saw the production, but he looked really good against, I think it was Notre Dame. But yeah, takes that and goes to Texas Tech, which Texas Tech has been doing great this offseason in the transfer portal. They're getting all the right guys. They're spending the big money. And I think this is a great pickup for Texas Tech, obviously. They're going from, I forget their running back's name, but one of the better running backs in the Big 12 to Quentin Joyner. I think that's a good move. C.J. Donaldson goes to Ohio State. I don't really think this moves the needle for me. I think they'll keep that committee backfield that they've been doing this year, but I think it'll be worse next year. So I don't think that's really an important move. Dante Dowdle to Kentucky, also kind of a unimportant move. Maybe he'll look good over there. Kentucky does a great job developing running backs. We've seen it before. Roman Hemby, this is a guy we talked about last week, going from Maryland to Indiana, and I like the move. I like what Kurt Cignetti's doing. Roman Hemby's a great running back. It looked very good for Maryland last season, and I think he can really flourish under Kurt Cignetti. I mean, we've seen it from guys like Jordan McLeod at JMU, and keep that going. Curtis Work this season. I think Roman Hemby fits the offense really well at Indiana. I think that move makes a lot of sense. You got Malachi Hosley here, the really good running back for Penn, goes up to Georgia Tech. Like that move for him. He's going to be behind Haynes, but Georgia Tech is a team who's always used running backs, so we'll see how that goes. Eli Sanders goes to USC. Really like that move for Eli Sanders, obviously. Nakari Rogers, the backup to Eli Sanders, goes to Utah as well. So I really like having Wayshawn Parker and Nakari Rogers as their 1 and 2. I think it's a great 1 and 2 punch, especially with Dampier. And if Utah does what New Mexico State did last year with their offense, I think Utah is going to have a pretty great offense. I'm not going to lie. They're going to run the football heavy, but I love that from them. So I think that's a good move. Next, we're going to talk about some wide receivers. So obviously the big name, Eric Singleton Jr. goes to Auburn. And don't look now, but Auburn's receiving core is electric. I mean, you got Cam Coleman, you got Keandre Lambert-Smith, you got Eric Singleton now. And obviously, you're going to see it when we scroll down a little bit. But they get Horatio Fields from Wake Forest, and then they also have Perry Thompson, I think is his name. They have a lot of great wide receivers, and just waiting to see the field at Auburn. So I think he's going to be a really good addition there. Obviously, don't look now, but Auburn might be really good in the future. We'll see how it goes with Hugh Freeze at head coach. I don't know, but they have the weapons. They have the pieces for sure. I'm going to take a little sip of water real quick. All right. Next, we got Zachariah Branch. Leaving USC has been linked to Georgia the majority of this offseason from what I've seen. So I would love that move as a Georgia fan, and as a Zachariah Branch fan, I think that move makes a lot of sense. Could be a game-changing move for Georgia and the receiving core. But we'll see where he commits to. Obviously, Dane Key was supposed to go to Georgia, but he's at Nebraska. We're going to talk about that as well. Deuce Robinson goes to Florida State. I love it for Florida State. Get you a 1,000-yard receiver. Deuce Robinson is very good, extremely talented, kind of that in-between, like a Kyle Pitts kind of deal, in between a tight end and a wide receiver, but it works at the college level. The only issue I have with this move is that who's going to throw him the ball? That's going to be the roughest part. I don't know if Tommy C is going to be able to get it done and get him the ball, but only time will tell, which I think time's going to tell me that I'm right. Dane Key goes to Nebraska. I really like what Nebraska is doing in the portal, what Matt Rule is doing, with the receivers. Obviously, you have a really talented quarterback in Dylan Raiola, and you get Dane Key, and you'll see later on they also get another wide receiver in the portal. I'm trying to remember who it is, but we'll scroll past it, I'm sure. Haven't heard much from Conception since the last time. I'm still going to go with Colorado as the team he lands at. We've already gone over this. Horatio Fields, probably the only bright spot on Wake Forest's offense last season, goes to Auburn. We'll see if he gets on the field. The problem with that is that, the wide receiver room for Auburn is extremely loaded right now. So we'll see who sees the field, who doesn't. And obviously, I think some guys are going to leave Auburn if they get replaced. So we'll see how that goes. Kevin Coleman Jr. A move that doesn't really you know makes me feel one way or another. Mario Craver is the same. Jordan Dwyer, the really standout wide receiver for Idaho, goes to TCU, and it's like, don't look now. I say the same thing about Auburn, but TCU has a great receiving core. Joseph Manjack, the wide receiver from Houston, transfers in. You get Jordan Dwyer, and you have Josh Hoover throwing the ball. I think TCU's offense could really surprise some people next year. I think we might see a really good TCU team, just like maybe not just like 2022, but something a lot better than this year. Obviously, they made a bowl game, but I think next year they're going to have a pretty stellar offense with those guys. Jonte Cook has committed to Florida, or he's predicted to commit to Florida. It doesn't really makes me feel, it doesn't really make me feel one way or another. We'll see if he gets playing time. Obviously, Florida's got some pretty good receivers like Jameer Dike and forget the other guy, but we'll see if Jonte Cook can get on the field. Hopefully he does. I want him to prove me wrong, so let's keep it going. Eric Rivers, probably the best receiver in this class, in my opinion, in this portal class. Goes to Georgia Tech, as well as Dean Patterson. We'll see down later on, but those are the two FIU receivers that looked really good, and they are going to Georgia Tech, which I think is a great option. Georgia Tech, honestly, could be one of those teams that just keeps improving under Brent Key. They look great. They look good this season. They got a great recruiting class. They got a pretty good transfer portal class so far. Haven't lost a lot of guys. You still got Haynes at running back. You got Jamal Haynes at running back, sorry. You get Haynes King at quarterback, and now you got Eric Rivers, Dean Patterson at receiver. Could be pretty good. I mean, obviously they lost Malik Rutherford, and Singleton Jr., but you're replacing them with two guys that I think are more or less, it's equal, in my opinion. Isaiah Horton, wide receiver for Miami, goes to Alabama. I think he was the wide receiver 3 at Miami. Goes to Alabama. Obviously, Alabama is kind of hurting for receivers right now. A lot of their depth guys have left the portal, or left through the portal, and I think this is just kind of another depth piece that's leaving Miami and going to Alabama. But obviously, yeah, I think he's just going to be like a wide receiver 3-4 kind of guy for Alabama. Time we're going over, but I hope you guys don't mind. Chase Soul goes to Iowa State. Got Rocco Beck throwing him the ball now. I think that's a great move for him. Rocco Beck's a really good quarterback. I think he's gonna, get him the ball efficiently. Stribling, CJ Daniels, we've all talked about these guys. Mark Camper, the other wide receiver at Idaho, pretty good. I don't know how much of the field he's going to see at Wisconsin, but they also don't have a lot going on right now. Keep it going. Neziah Hunter. Yeah, so this is one of the other receivers I was talking about for Nebraska. So Matt Rule, you get Dane Key and Neziah Hunter from Cal. I really like both of those guys, especially Neziah Hunter. I've talked about him before on the podcast, but he's really good wide receiver. So you get some studs for Raiola to throw it to. So I'm excited to see how that goes. Poor Kendrick Law goes to Kentucky. Just not a good move. Deuce Alexander to Ole Miss. Didn't see the field a lot at Wake Forest. Still a young guy. I think he's going to be a sophomore next year. He's only a freshman this year, sorry. But we'll see if he can get on the field at Ole Miss. Obviously, Ole Miss brought in Deshaun Stribling, who I think is probably going to be their wide receiver 1 next year. But we'll see if he gets on the field. I think he'll be a rotational guy for sure. J. Michael Sturdivant. So that's the other receiver that is committed to Florida through the portal. So, I think Sturdivant will get in over Cook, in my opinion, in terms of, who's going to see the field more. I think Sturdivant does, because Sturdivant, he looked great at UCLA. He just had no one throwing him the ball. So, I think J. Michael Sturdivant gets it done. Obviously, Prentice, we've already talked about. Odom, we've also already talked about. Let's see. Is there any more guys? Oh, yeah, Joseph Williams. So Joseph Williams was originally, let's see if I can find him here, but Joseph Williams, he was the standout wide receiver. Here he is. At Tulsa last season, we talked about him really on. I think the first portal video we did, we talked about Joseph Williams and how he's a great wide receiver. I think he's only a freshman as well. goes to Utah, but then flips to Colorado. Pretty brutal loss for Utah, but great get for Colorado. So, I mean, we could see a receiving room where we have Colorado with a Caden Salter starting at quarterback, and then we have Joseph Williams and maybe even Kevin Concepcion. Could be a pretty decent room for Colorado. Obviously, I don't think it'll be anything like Colorado's room this year, but I think it's still, you're trying to repair what you've lost, and that's doing that pretty well. So I like that. Deuce Spann goes to Pitt. It's just a well move, I guess. I don't really like that. We talked about Joseph Manjack last episode. Great pickup for TCU. I think TCU is doing a great job in the portal this offseason. And let me find the last name I was going to talk about. Amir Thomas is also a pretty good wide receiver for BYU, or for UAB. Goes to Houston. We like that move here. Where is it? If I can't find it, I'll just say it. But it's Tyron Smith. So if you don't know who Tyron Smith is, Tyron Smith was a really good wide receiver for UTEP. Injuries kind of kept him off the field, but he got, he looked great, good enough to where he made the move to the Power 4, transfers to Cincinnati, was hurt or didn't see the field, goes back to Texas State. I think he could be a 1,000-yard receiver for Texas State. And then Will Pauling goes to Notre Dame. I think that's a really good pickup for Notre Dame. Pauling is a really good receiver. So that is all for the portal. Sorry to keep you guys here so late, but we have a lot of motion since I was last on. A lot of motion, right? And but some really good moves that we've gotten to go over. Some moves I like, some moves I don't. But I think that, I like that. So next, and I'll try and do this as quick as possible, we're going to talk about who I have winning these NFL awards. Obviously, NFL season is coming to a close, and the awards, it's tightening up. So I'll just be brief about it here. I think I'll talk about it more next week as we get more of a clearer picture on who's going to win what and who's in the running for what. And obviously, I think I'll have less to talk about with the portal next week, so it could be a really good talking point for next week. But I'll go for it briefly here. So my MVP pick is going to be Lamar Jackson. He's looked great. I think he gets his third MVP, which is absolutely insane for him. I love it. But, Lamar's looked really good. But, don't count out Josh Allen either. It just kind of depends what you look at. I might change my answer upon further research. We'll see how it goes. But for now, it's Lamar Jackson. He's looked great. I mean, just lights out. Not turning the ball over a lot, throwing great balls, throwing touchdown passes nonstop, and also getting it done on his legs. So I like Lamar to win MVP. Offensive Player of the Year. I think that there's two for each division. So Offensive Player of the Year for the NFC. I really like Saquon Barkley there. Obviously, the league leader in rushing yards. I think he leads in rushing touchdowns, or he's second to Derrick Henry or something. But I think he locks up Offensive Player of the Year for the NFC. On the AFC side, I think it goes to Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow. One of those two guys. They look electric. Defensive Player of the Year, give me TJ Watt on the AFC side. I like TJ Watt a lot. He's looked great this season. Sauce Gardner also looks really good. But yeah, give me TJ Watt for AFC Defensive Player of the Year. NFC Defensive Player of the Year. I got to think about that one. I like Jesse Bates a lot, but, obviously, he's really good. But for now, I don't really know. I need to do some more research on NFC defensive players. But Braun for the Eagles also looks really good. But we'll see. I'll do some research on that, and we'll get you a surefire answer there. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think it goes to Jaden Daniels. But, like I said, if Brock Bowers breaks the record, as you can see, I'm repping the Raiders right now. Go Raiders! Go Raiders! I think Brock Bowers can win it if he breaks the receiving records, which he already has. I think he has over 100 receptions as a tight end, a rookie tight end too. Absolutely electric stuff there. I really like what Brock Bowers is doing, but Jaden Daniels, I think he's playing out of his mind as well. Obviously, had that comeback from behind victory against the Eagles. Then again, they were starting Kenny Pickett, or not starting Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was playing the majority of that game, but I think Jaden Daniels can light it up. Kenny Pickett doesn't play defense, so it's not all on Mister Kenny Pickett that they lost. But I think for now it's Jaden Daniels, defensive rookie of the year. Man, defensive rookie of the year. I really like Kamari Lassiter at Texas, or for Houston. Sorry. Once again, I'm not very well versed on the defensive players so far. There's definitely some big names I'm forgetting that have been showing out as rookies, but don't really remember them. But yeah, that's who I like right now. I'll have a more surefire. We'll do a whole segment next week. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the chat. Obviously, we have Real Spiel, our question and answer segment. So and that's kind of what this time is for. So if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the chat. I got one question from last week, which is, what do you think of Penix's first start? So Penix comes in for Atlanta, named the starter this week, and looked really good. Obviously, the defense played really good as well, and is, I think, the main reason why we run that game. And, Penix, obviously, he did not record a touchdown, and he had the interception, which was not his fault at all. I think everyone knows that. But he looked good. He was making the right reads. He was throwing the ball to the open man. So, I mean, that's about what you want. So hopefully he can keep that up. Obviously, it was against the Giants, who's not a great football team. So we'll see what happens there with that. I think tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but this weekend's going to be the real test against the Commanders. So we'll see if anyone has any questions in the chat. Who goes number 1 in this year's draft? People have been saying Shedeur a lot, and obviously a quarterback goes first, but you look at the mocks, a lot of times it's Shedeur, but Shedeur, if you read the grades, Shedeur has like a round 2 grade, so I don't like him to go first. Will he? I think it depends on who has the pick. I think the Giants have the pick right now, so it could very well be Shedeur. But I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are kind of like unexpected. That if I were the Giants, I'd rather pick up a bridge quarterback and play them, and not draft a Shedeur or a Cam Ward. Which Cam Ward, obviously, I think Cam Ward's the best quarterback in this draft class, but I don't think it's worth drafting any of them. And I don't know. I just a lot of people are saying Shedeur, so it's probably going to be Shedeur, unfortunately. But I think they also said Prime's like, Shedeur's not going to New York, but man, I really don't know. But Giants need a lot of offensive line help, so it could be a tackle of some sort or a guard. But I think it might unfortunately be Shedeur or Cam Ward. Hopefully Cam Ward. I wouldn't be mad with Cam Ward being a first round pick, but I guess we'll see. As the college football season kind of dwindles down, I can get into mock drafts and other sorts of NFL content, so that'll be a lot better. Talk about the NBA and stuff more. So yeah, we'll do a couple more minutes, see if anyone has any questions. In the meantime, we got not sponsored, by the way, but we got Ralph's Beef Jerky here. Shout out Chuck, my boy. My grandpa gets us this every year. It's best beef jerky. You guys don't know, so shout out Mr. Chuck. But yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, we'll get the show over with. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions from the chat, but I appreciate y'all as always for tuning in. This is episode 7 of That's an Awful Take. If you guys were wondering, why do you sound so good? You sound great. You sound so clear. We got a new mic for the pod, and I also have 2. So we should be having guests on the show shortly. It should be really exciting stuff. We'll see how it goes. Do some mock draft stuff, maybe do some CFP stuff. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It depends on what happens when I get back from break. A lot to figure out there, but we should be having guests on soon, so that's really exciting there. But this was your host, Price Mancer. Thank y'all for all tuning in, listening, and whatnot. I appreciate it. We'll be back again, maybe this time next week. It might be earlier. It might be a Wednesday stream for next week's episode, just because I may be going to the Ole Miss Duke game. Maybe live episode from Ole Miss Duke. No, I'm playing. But I'll let you guys know. I'll keep y'all updated. I do it in the community tab on YouTube. And now I will also be posting on TikTok and Instagram. So I got a TikTok and an Instagram. TAAT pod on TikTok and Instagram. So if you guys would please give those a follow. I'll be posting short form content there, getting some clips from this stream, for instance. I'll probably sit for the next couple hours and clip farm myself, I guess, and put that into just some short form content, help boost the popularity of the stream a little bit in the pod itself. So thank you guys once again for coming out. I'll see you guys next week for episode